Ever wondered how to combine data from multiple tables in SQL? Well, that's exactly where Joins comes in. They let you connect related data so you can see the full picture, not just bits and pieces. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Meshak, and in this tutorial we are diving into one of the most powerful concepts in SQL, which is joins. We'll be covering the three main types you need to know: inner joins, left joins, and right joins. Although there are others like the self join and the outer joins, these three are the most widely used and they are the ones we'll be looking at in today's video. And by the end of this video, you will understand how each one works, when to use them, and how they help you pull insights from multiple tables efficiently. So let's get started and make sense of SQL or SQL joins together. Okay, so now let's start with the first type of joins, which is the inner joins, or popularly known as joins, for short. So when you see joins or inner joins, they are the same. You can either use joins in your queries or you can just use inner joins in your queries, and it's going to work as inner joins. All right, so the first type of joins is the inner joins, or you might as well just call it joins. Now, what is the inner join, or what's the concept behind the inner join? All right, so now the inner join returns only rows where there is a matching value in both tables. I need to understand this. All right, the inner join, all right, or joins, it returns only the rows where there's a matching value in both tables. And so if you want to relate two tables, using the inner join, what the inner join is saying is that there should be matching values in both tables for you to be able to retrieve those particular informations. All right, let me go back and say that again. The inner join says that for you to retrieve information from two different tables, there should be matching values in both tables for you to be able to retrieve information. What does this mean? This simply means that, for instance, if you have a case whereby in table 1, we have items like Kofi. All right, we have items like Kofi, and then we have Amma, and then we have Yao. All right, so in table 1, these are the items, these are the details that we have, or the items that we have. All right, this is just a scenario. These are the items to the details that we have. All right, and then in table 2, we have Kofi, Yao, Kojo, and then we have Amma. All right, what the inner join is simply saying is that if you are to connect or relate these two tables, all right, if you are to join these two tables, that's table 1 and table 2, if you are to join them using the inner join or joins in SQL, what is going to happen is that it's going to provide a result where we have Kofi, Amma, and Yao, but we wouldn't have anything for Kojo. Do you understand? So we are going to have Kofi, Amma, and Yao, but there wouldn't be any information for Kojo. Why do I say this? Because the inner join has made it clear or explained. So why do I say this? So I say this because per the inner joins' explanation, it says that it will only return rows. So it will return rows. It will return items where there's a matching value in both tables. Now in this scenario, there's no matching value for Kojo in table 1. All right, and so if you use the inner joins, what is going to happen is that it's not going to return anything for Kojo. It's going to look at this particular item or this particular Kojo as non-existence. All right, because it only appears here and does not appear here. However, because Kofi, Amma, and Yao appear both in table 1 and in table 2, we are able to use the inner join to do what? To retrieve the information for Kofi, Amma, and then Yao. Do you understand? And so that is how the inner join works. All right, the inner joins will return only rows. All right, it return only rows where there are matching values. So if I want to relate table 1 and table 2 using the inner join function, all right, using the inner join, the understanding should be that if there is a particular table that has an item which does not appear in the other table, that particular item is not going to be returned as a value when we combine the two tables together. All right, but then it's only items that appear in table 1 and in table 2 that are going to come out as a result. You need to understand this. All right, you need to understand this. That's how the inner join works. All right, so table 1 must have these items, table 2 must have these items, and then these two items must have matching rows for you to be able to retrieve them. All right, or for you to be able to pull results out of them. Okay, so that is inner joins or joins in SQL for you. Now let's move on to left join. All right, let's move on to left join. All right, so now the left join. So what is the left join all about? All right, so the left join will return all rows from the left table and the matching rows from the right table. All right, so the left join will return all rows from the left table and matching rows from the right table. Now, based on this will tell you that if I'm returning all items from the left table and matching rows from the right table, then it means that any item that does not have a match with the left table is also going to be returned, but it's going to be returned as what? That is a question. All right, it's going to be returned as what? So if I have 5 items from the left table and I have 4 items from the right table, and I'm using the left join, what is going to happen to the one more item that is added to the left table but not on the right table? So what it's simply saying is that the left join is going to replace the last item which does not have a matching value with now. All right, so it's going to return all the items, but it's going to just put now over there, so it's going to save it as empty. All right, for that particular left item. All right, for that particular left item. Now let me show you a scenario. So let's say this. Let's say I'm looking at select all from marketing. All right, left join from marketing, left join all select all from marketing, left join maybe salary. All right, on maybe marketing dot id equals salary dot id. All right, now I'll explain this. All right, so now if you see something like this, all right, I want to explain the left and the right join as one. Now what is this simply means is that it says select all from marketing, left join salary on marketing equal to salary dot whatever. Now this particular table, this is your left table. All right, this is the left table. The table that appears first is always the left table in SQL. So the table that will appear first. So if I'm to swap this and say select all from salary, left join marketing, then in this particular case, salary becomes your first table or the left table, and the marketing becomes the right table. But in this scenario where it says select all from marketing, left join salary, then it means that this one marketing is our left table, and so in using the left join, all items that are in marketing that you're actually looking for, you are selecting, will actually appear, and then the matching records from the right table, which is the salary, is what will appear against it. And so if I have so many items in the left table that the right table does not meet up to, the right table will only provide, left join will only provide matching records in the left table that are found in the right table, and then the other ones will be left as now. All right, so you need to understand the positioning of your tables when you are using the left join and the right join. Now the right join is just the exact opposite of the left join, but I need you to understand the position of the tables properly so you don't make mistakes. All right, so select all from marketing, this is your left table, left join salary, this is your right table. So a scenario, if I'm to pick all of this, all right, and I bring them down here, and I call this now table one, all right, and then I come up here and I pick all of this, and then I put down here and I call this table two. Now what left join is going to do is that it's going to bring out all of this, because this is my first table, so this is my left table, all right. So it's going to bring down all of this, okay. It's going to bring down all of this, and then compare or find the matching records, all right. So you are going to say that now we have Kofi, so it's going to return this as Kofi, and then we have Yao in table 2. This is Yao, so it's going to return Yao, but we don't have Kojo in table 2, which is our right table, all right. We don't have Kojo, so what it's going to do is that it's going to replace this as nothing, or in SQL to just put now, all right, and then it's going to return Ama as Ama. So this is what is happening. So it's returning everything on the left side with the matching records on the right side, and then when there is no matching records, it fills it with now. All right. Unlike with the inner join or the inner joins or the normal joins, where under normal circumstance would have taken this entire records from the data set, the left join will actually bring out the data set, but then it will show you that, you know what, yes, there's a record in your left table, which is your first table, but in the second table there's no matching records for this particular item in your first table, hence you are replacing it with now. I hope this makes sense. All right, so I hope this was understood. All right, now let's move on to the right table. Right joins, sorry, the right joins, excuse me. Now let's move on to the right joins. All right, now the right join simply works the same way as the left joins, just that now it's flipped on the other side. All right, so now with the right joins, this is simply your left, this is still your left join and your right join, but in the this is still, sorry, your left table and your right table, all right. But in the right join, which is not normally used, because as compared to the left joins, we will rather use the left joins than the right joins, all right. But the right joins just works in the reverse, where you take every single thing from the second table, from the right table, all right, and then match it with records from the left table, all right. So we just an exchange of what the left join is all about. So if you understand the left join well enough, the right join should also be easier for you to understand. But a lot of the case, people will just prefer to use the left join than the right join. But like I've said, remember that the first table is always the left table, and this is always the right table. And so when you're using the left join and the right join, keep in mind this particular positioning. All right, SQL is all about order of execution and position, and so if you forget that, it's going to mess up your queries. All right, and so yes, we will be moving on to something practical. I'd like to show you something practical with the joins so that you understand what we just did. Okay, so yes, let's move on to that. Okay, so now let's practicalize what we've just discussed, or what we've just learned. All right, and so in practicalizing it, we are going to be using these two tables. All right, so we have the we have the sales think analytics measure tutorial sales table, which I believe is the first one. All right, so let me show you. So which is this, the very first one, this table, all right. And then we have the think analytics mesh tutorial store table, which is the second one. So I just wanted to show both, and that's why you see them here. All right, so let's proceed. And so looking at these two tables, you can see that these two tables have some different items in them. Whereas in the first one, the sales table, we have the customer ID, customer product ID, order ID, unit sold, and then date purchased. And in the second table, we have product ID, product name, price, and production. However, these two tables are one and the same. But the person that filled in the details, fill them in two different tables, but they are one and the same. They are supposed to be a joint, sheet. All right, but the tables were filled differently. Okay, that doesn't mean we can't get information from here into this table or from here to this table. And in order to get information from this table to this table or this to this table, that is where the joins comes in. All right. And so we can use the joins to link these two tables as one. All right. But then if you must understand, this is we are practicalizing this, so I need to tell you, whenever you are using joins, joins works in similar function as when you are using Excel, the VLOOKUP, the XLOOKUP, the HLOOKUP, all right, in Excel, so that you're able to connect one table item to the other table items. Or in Power BI, we call something relationship and data modeling, all right, which I've already gone through in my Power BI series, all right, where you're able to link 2 or 3 tables together in order to use the information from that particular table in another table. And so in SQL, all right, in joins also, we can use information from this table in this we can use information from this particular table that we don't have in this particular table to derive certain informations. Okay, and so when we are doing this, we realize that, so let's assume, all right, a scenario and say that, okay, so we want every single thing, these two tables, we want them to be one table. All right, so how can you do that? Now we can do this using the inner join, left join, or right join. But I'm just going to show you how to use the inner join, and then it's the same procedure for the left join and the right join. All right, and so how do you write this? So your query is going to be select all right, because we want every item from this and then this as one. All right, so we are still going to use the select all. We want all the items. All right, so I'm going to select all from, and I'm going to say my first table, whichever table you want to be the first, being is this or that, it really doesn't matter as long as you understand left join, right join, and how tables work. All right, so I'm going to say select all from, I'm going to use the sales as my first table. All right, so select all from this, and I'm going to come there and say inner join. All right, inner join or join, or you can just also use just join, and it's the same thing. So select all from this table, and I'm joining this second table. All right, this is the second table that I'm joining, the store table. So I'm joining this table because I need information from both these tables. All right, so I just select all from the Think Analytics Mesh Tutorial Sales. Join Think Analytics Mesh Tutorial Sales. So I'm joining this table and this table. Now, if you highlight this and you execute, this is going to give you an error, and I'll explain why. All right, so you see it's giving an error. Say incorrect syntax near Think Analytics Mesh Tutorial Store. All right, now all this is simply saying is that when it comes to joins in SQL, relationships in Power BI, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP in Excel, relationships, one thing that we always see, all right, that is very much important is that there needs to be something that you are linking those two tables with. Okay, when you are linking two tables or you are relating two tables or you need information from two different tables, there needs to be a particular column that you are basing your relationship on. If there is no column here that is also found here, like an intersected column, it's not going to work. You can't link those two tables. All right, and so we are linking the two tables. One table has to have a column that appears in the second column. It is only at that instance that you can link those two tables. And so in this scenario, when you look at the first table, we have customer ID, customer product ID, order ID, unit sold, date purchase. And if you look in the second table, you have product ID, product name, price, and production. Now, if you look at both this and this, you realize that there's a column that appears in the first table and also found in the second table, which is your product ID. So you can see we have a product ID column in the second table, and you can also see that we have a product ID column in the first table. And so based on this, the fact that we have a column appearing in both tables, it means we can actually do what? We can actually link these two tables. Assuming we didn't have a column that appeared here and here, we wouldn't be able to link the tables. That is how relationship works. So you need to understand that there needs to be a column linking both. It's more or less like, look at this, like you have a sister, a biological sister. All right, what links you to your biological sister? What will make someone say that indeed this person's biological sister is this? It is the blood, the family that runs through both of them. So you have a similar father, you have a similar mother, you have similar siblings. That is what makes you relatable. All right, that's what makes you biological. And so we are linking these two tables. What is it in table 1 and table 2 that links both tables? So that is what you pay attention to. That is the most important thing when you are linking two tables. So identify a column that appears in table 1 and table 2, or even table 3 and table 4. All right. Right. So now after you've identified the column that you can find in both tables, now you need to base your query on that particular column. Now when I say base your query on, it simply means that now you are going to say that, okay, so in table 1 you are basing the table 1 name on this particular column, and then you are equaling or you are equating it to table 2 also on that particular column. All right, so it's going to be select all from this, join this, and then I'm going to say on. So now when you see this on, it's simply based on, all right, it's simply supposed to be based on the table 1, which is this is your first table. So table 1 here, table 1, and dot the column name, which is the product ID. All right, so I'm going to say product underscore ID. So we are selecting all from Think Analytics Mesh Tutorial Sales, join Think Analytics Mesh Tutorial Store based on Think Analytics Sales product ID. That's the column, and then we are equating it to the store. All right, that's the second table. Also on that particular dot product ID, also on that particular column. All right, so this is how your query should be written. All right, so select all from this, join this based on this equals to this. All right, but in SQL you don't use a base, so I'll be taking the base out and then on. But I just want you to know that the on that is represented is simply you are basing on. You understand? You are basing on this particular table and on this particular column, equating it to the next table and that same column. All right, so that's why I added the b, so that you understand where the on is coming from. So now that we have this, we can just highlight all this and execute, and you realize that now we have all our information as one. Right now we have all our information from table 1 and table 2 as one, and then now based on this we can do our calculations. We can put this into CTE and do our calculations, whatever analysis that we want to do. All right, there's a particular problem though. Okay, so what is the problem that we are facing, or the problem that I've seen from this table or from this query, or if you've also seen, now you realize that the product ID column is now appearing twice. You have product ID column 1 and you have product ID column 2. And this is happening because we didn't specify which of the product ID columns we are taking them from which particular table. All right, because we just selected everything. Our query says we want everything from both tables, and so it did this. Now there's another way to use joins that I'm going to show you. You don't always have to select everything. Okay, so there might come instances where you don't need every single column, you just need specific columns. All right, then you can also just do that with the joins. All right, the only problem is that now in this case, remember how the query was written in this first instance. We said select all from, so all of your columns must be in the select all from statement. You don't have to specify that. You don't have to specify saying select this and this from sales, and then you come down and say select this from. No, it doesn't have to work that way. Your columns must all be included in the very first select statement. Now I'm saying this because when I started out on joins, this was a mistake that I often made. It's kind of skipped me. It was so terrible. But yeah, that's how it works. And so for instance, I only need some specific columns. All right, and so in this instance, how do I write them? So I'm going to say select. Now from the first table, I need customer ID, I need customer name, I need order ID. All right, I need unit sold, and then I need maybe, yeah, I need unit sold. Okay, so now let's add columns from the second table. In the second table, we are going to have columns like the product name. All right, I'm going to have product name, price, and then we are going to have production cost. All right, now if you need to have product ID, then you need to specify, all right, from which particular table you are picking the product ID column from. Okay, because if you do not specify, it's going to give out an error. Let me show you. If I say product ID, if I just say product ID, all right, and I say from, okay, I say from Think Analytics sales table. All right, sales is the first one. Join, okay, store, okay, So if I just do this, I say select customer ID, customer, order ID, unit sold, product name, price, production cost, product ID from, all right, so from all of this, okay, that's the sales joining the store, all right. And so I can go ahead and say on, all right, on this first one, all right, this dot product ID, right, product ID equals this, right, equals this dot product ID, product ID. Now let's run this and see what we are going to get. All right, now if we run this and we execute, all right, it's going to give us ambiguous column name product ID. Yes, because this product ID is ambiguous. Now the query or SQL doesn't know which of the tables we're actually picking the product ID column from. All right, which of the tables we're actually picking them from, and that's because product ID appears in both tables. All right, it appears in table 1 and table 2. And so in this instance, what you need to do is that you need to specify which of the tables you are actually picking the product ID from. And you can either pick from table 1 or table 2. Doesn't matter as long as you find the product or the column name in both tables. All right. And so not just the product ID, but if you are working on any, data set and then you are picking columns and the columns appears in both tables, you need to specify, all right, by using that particular table name, then dot the column name. All right, so now specify that the product ID column should be from Think Analytics Mix Tutorial Sales table. All right, and it could also be from the store table. It really doesn't matter. All right, so now if you highlight this and execute this, now this is going to work. All right, because now we've specified and we've done all the other things right. And so yes, this is how joins works. It doesn't just work for joins. If you change this to left join, it's still going to work. I've already explained how the left join works and the right join, so I don't think the procedure or how you create this to the same. So if you change it to left join, you just need to change it based on which of the joins you are using, whether you're using left join or right joins, or inner joins. All right, right join. So now we have right join, and then if I execute this, it's still going to work. So based on the kind of join you are working with, the procedure is still the same. All right, so I really do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and comment down below anything that you found really useful in this tutorial. And in the next one, I'm going to be taking you through how to actually join multiple tables. All right, in this tutorial, we looked at joining 2 tables, but in the following one, we are going to be looking at how to actually join 3 or more tables. All right, and that is also simple. I will take you through all of that. So like I always say, be sure you take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.